الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Continuing our reading of the work, we started last week معالم في طريق طلب علم, milestones in the path of seeking knowledge. We read last week the author's introduction, and then to the next chapter where he talks about the obstacles in seeking knowledge, the mu'awwiqat, the things that are obstacles عن طلب العلم. And we mentioned last week the first one, which was فساد النية, a bad intention. And now we'll continue to the second one. The author, he says, المعوق الثاني, the second obstacle, حب الشهرة وحب التصدر, loving to be known or love of fame and to be putting themselves or oneself forward. وهو داخل تحت النية ولكن يفرد لأهميته والشهرة والتصدر داء وبيل لا يسلم منه إلا من عصمه الله. He said, and we separated this chapter, despite it actually falling under the chapter of the intention, due to its importance, and seeking fame and to be put forward is a disease. It's a disease and a sickness that seldom or very few people are protected from except the one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserves and protects. كما قال الشاطبي رحمه الله, الشاطبي, he says, آخر أشياء نزولا عن قلوب الصالحين حب السلطة وتصدر. الشاطبي رحمه Allah, he writes that the last thing removed from the hearts of the pious people is love of authority and to be put forward. Right, so it's a powerful statement. We're talking about the reality of people. Imagine, brothers and sisters, fame is something human beings love naturally. And we studied that in one of the one-day seminars when we looked at the work of Hafiz bin Rajab rahimahullah and the dangers of loving wealth and status. But look at this statement. It's the last thing taken out of the heart of the people who are pious. So what about those people who are yet to achieve their goal or their absolute highest level of piety? They're struggling. They want to be known. They want people to point their fingers at them. Sheikh so-and-so, teacher so-and-so, honorific titles. They get upset if not mentioned. If they get upset if someone takes the class or takes the lesson from them. So this is a reality we have to pay attention to, and it's coming from who? The ulama, Shatibi is from the scholars. So scholars are saying this. He says then, فَإِذَا كَانَتْ نِيَّةُ طَالِبِ أَنْ يُشْتَهَرَ اسْمُهُ وَأَنْ يَرْتَفِعَ ذِكْرَهُ وأن يكون مبجلا كلما حل أو رحل لا هم له إلى ذلك فقد أدخل نفسه مداخل خطيرة ويكفي أن نعرف حديثا واحدا وهو قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. He says that if a student of knowledge wishes that their name be known and their mention be lifted and that there are people who are considered honorable when present and when absent, and that's all he's intending, then really he's entered upon a very dangerous situation. And to suffice us is just one hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "أو إن أول الناس يقضى يوم القيامة عليه ثلاثة." The first people who the hellfire will be lit for are three people. Until he said عليه الصلاة والسلام, وَرَجُلٌ تَعَلَّمَ الْعِلْمَ وَعَلَّمَهُ وَقَرَأَ الْقُرْآنِ. A man who learned knowledge, he taught it, and he read the Quran. فَأُوتِيَ بِهِ فَعَرَفَهُ نِعَمَهُ فَعَرَفَهَا. Allah will subhanahu wa ta'ala will remind him of his benefits or his blessings, and he will confirm them. فَقَالَ فَمَا فَعَلْتَ فِيهَا. Allah will say to him, why did you learn and seek knowledge and teach? He says, the man will say, تَعَلَّمْتُ الْعِلْمَ وَعَلَّمْتُهُ وَقَرَأْتُ فِيكَ الْقُرْآنِ. I learned it and I studied it and I taught it for your sake. قال الله تعالى كذبت. You have lied. ولكنك تعلمت العلم ليقال عالم وقرأت في القرآن ليقال هو قارئ فقد قيل ثم أمر به فشحب على وجهه حتى ألقي في النار إلى آخر الحديث. And Allah will say that you have lied. You only learn knowledge so people can say you are a scholar. You read the Quran so someone can be calling you, or people can say you are a qari. And it has been said, so that he will then be thrown head first into the hellfire. He says, وَالْحَدِيثُ الْآخَرُ. And this hadith, brothers and sisters, is sufficient as a threat. And these are the kind of hadith the student, when they're studying, when they learn them, if the niyyah was corrupted, it gets corrected by this. So we said last week, someone starts talib ilm with corrupted niyyah. When they hear hadith like this, khalas, they get scared. And they will correct what they started with corruption. Our brothers and sisters see today the standard, and it's passed too. Someone will call me alim, qari, he's smiling. They don't call you that, he gets angry. And if you're a qari, it doesn't matter if a jahil says you're qari or not. The jahil doesn't know what qari is anyways. And this is the problem today. If an ignorant person calls you qari, he's ignorant. He doesn't even know what a qari is. So you're smiling at someone who is not a qari. But if a qari who's really a qari says this person is really a qari, that's sufficient of your status. But imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows you're a qari or alim or something. It's enough. So we need to really pay attention to these hadith, because in today's time, they're one of the biggest problems. Another hadith he brings, Sahih, Shaykh Al-Albani authenticates it. قال عليه الصلاة والسلام يا نعايا العرب أخوف ما أخاف عليكم الشرك والشهوة الخفي. O tribes of Arab, that which I fear most for you is shirk and the desire, hidden desire. قال ابن أثير رحمه الله إن الشهوة الخفي حب اطلاع الناس على العمل. So the hidden desire the Prophet ﷺ is talking about is the love for people to see your good deeds. The love of the people to see your good deeds. And this will be a theory, he mentions the explanation of it. So imagine this, my brothers and sisters, in today's time with the cameras and technology, these are the type of hadith we have to read to the people. This is the Prophet, أَخْوَافُ مَا أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ. I'm scared for you most, الشرك والشهوة الخفي. But today, people, they don't know this. Right? So this is why sometimes people are falling into these elements of showing off, because they're always coming from the angle of good thoughts. I'm trying to do good. But the problem is, what about if your intention is wrong? What about if you're trying to do good but you didn't do it? So we must remind people of these hadith. وجاء عن الفاروق رضي الله تعالى عنه أنه عاتب أبيا عندما رأى الناس يمشون خلفه أبيا عفوا عندما رأى الناس يمشون خلفه فنهره وزجره قائلا كف عن هذا فإنها فتنة للمتبوع مذلة للتابعين. One day Umar al-Khattab saw Ubay ibn Ka'ab radiallahu anhu walking, and people were following behind him. And he told him, he rebuked him and said, and criticized him for it, and said, leave this off, for it's a fitna for the one who's following, right? For the one who's being followed, and it's a humiliation for the one following. And so therefore, many of the ulama, they don't like that. When they finish their classes, you see them, they run, some of them. No, they don't want crowds around them, people behind them, in front of them. And this comes to physically following somebody, even if they're trying to ask a question, because what are they worried about? They're in class. Right? Me and you, maybe we're not thinking that way. So now we can see that the ulama, they know fitnatul matbu' wa madlatul tabi', right? So at the end of the day, it's a fitna and it's a humiliation. But if a person knows that fame is something someone can be tested with, we're going to see that some of the Salaf, they knew this, because they were tested with fame and they didn't seek it. So fame is of two types: that which is given to someone after trying to seek it, and it's going to ruin his dunya wal akhirah. And another person who was tested with fame, he didn't seek it. Because he was pious and he's righteous, knowledgeable, Allah made him famous, and he's tested. So the difference between the two categories: the person who's tested with it, he tries his best to flee the test, pass the test by fleeing from it, not wanting to hear people praising him. The people who want it is opposite. Right? They're not famous, they're trying to become, or if they're famous and they're happy, or they're on the Salaf, they're running from it. And so here we learn, brothers and sisters, the importance to read the biographies of Salaf. When we fall into these kinds of things, when shaitan comes to us, we just read the biographies of Salaf. It purifies your heart and removes you from the delusions in your mind. Right? Because we're human beings, we think we're something, and then we read the Salaf. For example, وَقَدْ ذَكَرَ بَعْضٌ مِمَّنْ كَتَبَ فِي الرَّقَائِقِ وَالسُّلُوكِ أن العبد إذا تمنى أو فرح أن يعظم إذا دخل أو أن يكون قصده مقصورا على إعجاب الناس به مدحهم له فحسب فإن ذلك باب عظيم من باب الرياء والسمعة. He says that the ulama and those who have written about the behaviors and heart softeners have said, if a servant loves to be and is pleased that he's remembered to be venerated when he's entering, and that's all his intention is to please the people and to be amazed by them with their praise, then he's really entered a great door from the doors of riyah, showing off, and sum'ah, trying to be heard. وَمَنْ رَأَى رَأَى اللَّهُ بِهِ وَمَنْ سَمِعَ سَمِعَ اللَّهُ بِهِ. Whosoever wants to be seen, Allah will make him be seen, and whosoever wants to be heard, Allah made him be heard, in a humiliating way. وَبِهَذِهِ الشَّهْوَةِ مُصِيبَةٌ إِلَّا لِمَنْ رَبَطَ اللَّهُ عَلَى قَلْبِهِ. And it's really a calamity except for the one who Allah has protected and has preserved his heart. وَكَانَ السَّلَفُ رَحِمَهُمُ اللَّهُ أَبْعَدَ النَّاسِ عَنْ حُبِّ الشُّهْرَةِ ومن أمثال ذلك. Now he's going to bring the example of the Salaf from the Kitab Sir A'lam al-Nubala, Imam Dhahabi. He said, ما جاء في ترجمة أيوب السختياني رحمه الله تعالى قال الشعبة قال أيوب ذكرت ولا أحب أن أذكره. Right? He said, I've been mentioned and I don't like to be mentioned. I be mentioned, I don't love to be mentioned. وقال الشعبة أيضا ربما ذهبت مع أيوب لحاجة فلا يدعني أمشي معه ويخرج من ها هنا وها هنا لكي لا يطفن له. He says, sometimes I will go out with Ayyub as-Sakhyan to feel a need, and he wouldn't even allow me to walk alongside him. And he would exit the place and the market where he was going by going here and there, so no one would notice him. Imagine that, brothers and sisters. Ayyub as-Sakhyan, if anyone knows biography, this great Imam from the Salaf, this is how he is. Almost as if he's hiding from the people. Because he knows that people are remembering him. And people are praising him for the qualities that he has, but he's scared for his own intention. فقال حماد كنت أمشي معه يعني أيوب فيأخذ في الطرق إني أعجب كيف يهتدي لها فرارا من الناس أن يقال هذا أيوب. He said, I used to go with Ayyub, Hamad says, and he would take different pathways, and I was amazed how he was being, leading us through these out of efforts to flee from the people, that they will be saying, this is Ayyub, this is Ayyub. وقال بشر بن حارث ما اتقى الله من أحب الشهرة. Bishop bin Harith said he doesn't fear Allah, the one who loves fame. وقال يا أحمد رحمه الله أريد أن أكون في الشعب والشعب بمكة حتى لا أعرف وقد ابتليت بالشهرة. He said I would love to be living in the bypasses or the mountains of the Mecca, so that I will not be known, and because I've rarely been tested with shuhra, with fame. And he says ولما بلغ الإمام أحمد أن الناس قد يدعون له. Imam Ahmad, when he found out people make dua for him, he said to them, ليته لا يكون استدراجا. I hope and I fear that this is not going to be a gradual punishment of Allah. This is coming like this, the people are doing this. عرف وقال مرة يخاطب تلميذه لما بلغه مدح الناس يا أبا بكر إذا الرجل نفسه إذا عرف الرجل نفسه فما ينفعه كلام الناس. الله أكبر. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah once said to his student Abu Bakr, he said, if a man knows his own self, it doesn't benefit him when people say about him. You see, people say you're alim, doesn't matter. You know you're not. And if someone says you're ignorant and you're knowledgeable, it doesn't matter either. So what's happening today, as social media is the best of it, the validation. This is what people are looking for. We want a group of awam to say you're the most knowledgeable person ever. And what's the problem with that, brothers and sisters? Remember Khattabi told us already, never be deceived by the praise of the awam. They come for something they want, and when they get it, they leave you. So what's the problem then? People today are gathering thousands of subscribers of awam, who they only praise you because they don't know nothing. And really the dangerous part today, imagine student of knowledge, the best of the best. And this is what he's doing. This is unbefitting. So it's a very important reminder. We read the Salaf, you see they were scared and they were tested with the fame. And now Ahmed another time he said that I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, عفوا, he said وقال مرة لشخص آخر. One time he said to another man عند بلغه دعاء الناس. When he reached him, did the people make dua for him? He said, أسأل الله, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala أن لا يجعلنا مرائين. I ask Allah, He doesn't make us from those who are showing off. And he's only fleeing from people making dua for him. Imagine, brothers and sisters. So these are great reminders. Student knowledge should not be this way. And this will be a preventative for talib ilm. Because if your goal is to become famous, once you become famous, you stop seeking knowledge and teaching and benefiting because you reached your goal. The next one, al-mu'awwiq al-thalith, the third one. And again, if someone wants more on this, we go back to we read the Ibn Rajab's book. It's in English as well. The dangers of loving, having craving for wealth and status. He says the third obstacle, التفريط في حلقات العلم, falling short in attending the circles of knowledge. كان سلفنا يقولون, he says, the Salaf used to say, our Salaf, العلم يؤتى ولا يأتي, knowledge is came to, and it's come to and it's not coming to someone. وحق لنا أن نقول, and it's also correct that we say, إن العلم الآن يأتي ولا يؤتى إلا من القليل فحلقات علمي التي تعقد والدروس التي تقام إن لم تستغلها فسوف تغض أصابع الندم فيما بعد. And he says, and it's correct for us to say today, the knowledge, الآن too, the knowledge in today's time, يأتي, person should go to it, ولا يؤتى, and it will not come to him except what little is coming to him. And if you think about this, what he's saying is that today, with all the technology means of ilm, we have the easiest time to seek knowledge. The computers, we have the telegram, we have all these sources. But the halaqat ilm, the asl, the knowledge is really in there. It's with the ulama and the people tulab ilm, because they're going to teach you and benefit you. And he says then the circles of knowledge which are established and the lessons which are given, we must take advantage of them before a time comes when we are going to regret. ولا تحين من دم في هذه الحلقات لو لم يكن فيها إلا أن السكينة تنزل على حاضرها. He said what is enough is to know or to be regretted is that the circles of knowledge, if missed, is a circle in which there is sakina, there's the tranquility of Allah descending therein for those who attend it. وَرَحْمَةٌ تَخْشَاهُمْ, that's covering the mercy of Allah. وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ تُحِفُّهُم, and the malaika covering their gatherings. وَقَبْلَ ذَلك, and before all of this, يَذْكُرُهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَنْ عِنْدَهُ, Allah remember them in those who are in His company. لكن ذلك كافيا في حضورها, that's sufficient for someone to attend. فكيف إذا كان صاحب حلقة وحلقة سيحظى وإن شاء الله تعالى بفوزين بتحصيل علمي وبالأجر الآخري. He says, and what about if somebody who attends the class will get both objectives? Number one, the obtaining of knowledge, and number two, the reward of the hereafter. So enough, if you come to halaqat ilm, then you get all that benefits. You're in the road of Riyadh al-Jannah, the gardens of paradise, even if you didn't learn much. But imagine you're going to learn properly. You're going to become leader on someone who's going to become an imam for the community, benefit them. And number two, you get the reward in akhirah. So win-win, you can't beat that person. So he says, وَسَيَأْتِي إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى مَبْحَث, a whole section will come later, مُسْتَقِلٌ, separate, عن أَدَبِ الْحَلَقَاتِ الْعِلْمِ, about etiquette that come to lessons. So one of the obstacles of seeking knowledge is falling short in coming to the classes. And this is a reality even here in the West we must acknowledge and we must be careful of. If you're missing classes often, you're not only missing the virtues of the classes, you're also missing the ability to learn knowledge. So you can't learn knowledge if you're breaking. Every time you're missing, absent. And oftentimes you wonder, the people who are absent, what is it that they're busy with? And the Sheikh's going to get to it later, the next one, which is that people sometimes are missing because they're busy with that which is not beneficial or that which is worse. So we must be careful of how shaitan will trick us. Maybe you're doing something beneficial, but knowledge is more beneficial. Or the reality, which in most cases, someone left the knowledge for something which is not even beneficial. Just resting, just relaxing, just playing. So we must be careful, brothers and sisters, of that, and we should give ourselves accountability. And how do you do that? If you miss a class, no problem, but don't make it a habit. And how do you know that? Don't miss 2 in a row. The psychologists and experts, they say if you miss something 2 in a row, it becomes a habit. So you miss 1, no problem. 2, you're already going to danger place. 3, khalas, you're in a new way. So some of us, we got to catch yourself 1 time, 2 times. So we can't keep having appointments in the classes every time. 1, fine. 2, a third, we won't see you again. And it's happened to many people. They missed 2, by the time it was a month, they're like, subhanAllah, I'm so behind. And also what happens is that shaitan might even make you feel bad about coming back. So we have to be careful of that. Try your best. If you miss, don't miss the next one. Or if you miss, you make the udhr to the teacher and you come back to the next one. But you see how he mentioned an obstacle? Because you can't learn the book if you keep missing the classes. Fourth one, المعوق الرابع التضرع بكثرة الاشتغال. So someone now being busy in excessive or unnecessary busyness. هذا عذر جعله الله الشيطان حاجزا منيعا وكم كلم إخوة أحبة وحثوا على طلب علم لكن الشيطان سول لهم. So it's a كم, you say how many إخوة, brothers, beloved to them, who have been encouraged and to come to seek knowledge, لكن الشيطان سول لهم. Shaitan has overcome them, he has distracted them, ولبس عليهم, he has confused them. فمفرط جعل أشغال ذريعة في تغيب عن حلقات العلم وجعل في هذه أشغال التماسا للمعاذير حتى يجعل نفسه تأويلا مستصاغا في نظره فيكون في تركه لطلب علم حجة. وهذه أشغال هي سبب رئيس في منع طلب من حلقات العلم ومن تحصيل كثير من العلم لكن من فتح الله على بصيرته ورتب أوقاته. So he says here then, Shaitan has confused many of them by making them become negligent in different types of busyness, which then is a cause for them to be absent from the seeking and circles of knowledge, until the point that they make excuses that this path they're seeking, this business which they're seeking, they have an excuse for it and they give themselves justifications. In reality, it just leaves, it's going to become a proof against them for leaving seeking knowledge. وهذه أشغال, he says, these kinds of busyness are the primary reason for preventing from the student from attending the circles of knowledge. and those who are trying to obtain beneficial knowledge or much knowledge. However, the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has opened for him his eyes and has organized his time for him, وَاسْتَغَلَّ مَا يَسْتَطِيعُ, and he has also benefited him or gave him seized opportunity that which is able to, فَإِنَّهُ سَيَحْصُلُ كَثِيرًا وَلِسَانُ حَالِ أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ انْتَفَعُوا مِنْ تَرْتِيبِ أَوْقَاتِهِمْ يَقُولُ. So you find those people who have organized their time, that their situation is proof of what we're showing a benefit. Means everybody has something, a busyness, but it shouldn't be to the point that you're busy from the thing which is most important. So going to work is a wasila to help you for what? Fil ibadah. Going to work is not the ghaya. Some people became, that's it, I'm going to work for what? There's no talab ilm, but ibadah. So for example, marriage is the wasila to what? To worship Allah. If it became the ghaya, then khalas. You get married, salaam alaikum, the durus are finished. You have to realize it's wasila or ghaya, it's a wasila. So he's saying here that all these are good excuses, good benefits, but it cannot overcome the objective. And then he mentions to encourage someone, see the people who organize their time, they manage between all these affairs, and they can do both, all of them. So they have family, they have work, and they seek knowledge. So we see these people, you see, have to benefit from what they're doing. And the best example we have, and it's going to come later, Amir al-Mu'minin Umar al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu. He has family, he's an older man, he has business, and what is he doing? Taking turns coming to the classes. So sometimes we forget, right? These are practical examples for us, Hadith Bukhari. And also when Umar realized, when he missed a certain benefit about the etiquette of isti'adhan, seeking etiquette, entering the homes, knock 3 times, someone doesn't answer, you leave. He got upset at himself when he didn't know that hadith because he said the market kept us busy. See, he felt bad about it. Today, the ulama say with the recordings, is it a way to catch up, to make istidraj, or istidrak of everything you miss. But imagine you missed a class, you missed a recording, and you're telling, I have to do all this. No doubt you have an excuse, but try your best to balance. And then he mentioned, مَنْ لَمْ يُجَرِّبْ لَيْسَ يَعْرِفُ قَدْرَهُ فَجَرِّبْ تَجِدْ تَصْدِيقَ مَا قَدْ ذَكَرْنَاهُ. San'ani, he says, and try. And the one who doesn't try will not know his ability or its value. And if you try, you will see the truth of what I'm mentioning. And this is the truth, right? The people who try to organize their time, put everything in its place, they find they can do everything. So that's another one. The fourth one, being too busy and that which is going to prevent them from the seeking of Islamic knowledge. The fifth one, المعوق الخامس التفريط في طلب العلم في الصغر. The fifth obstacle, being negligent seeking knowledge when younger. He said, إن الإنسان ليغبط أناسا أصغر منه سنا وأكبر همة تجدهم من السابقين إلى حلقات علمه. نعم يغبط أولئك ويتحشر على أوقات ذهبت من عمره ولم يشتغلها في طلب الحفظ. He says that you find some people becoming jealous in a good way, means ghibta here, the jealousy in which you want to be like somebody, but not that you want his ni'mah to be removed. Hasad is when you embrace someone that you want the ni'mah to be removed from him, even to give it to you or to others, whereas ghibta is that you want what the person has, but you don't want the ni'mah to be taken. And who is this person who people are having good jealousy towards? The person who is young in age and who has a high ambition, and who are going forward and becoming the forerunners in seeking knowledge in the classes. So these people truly to be said to be jealous of in a good way. Because many people, that since their life has passed and they didn't busy themselves seeking knowledge, memorizing, فإذا كبر وكثرت أشغاله وكثرت طوارق عليه أناء الليل وأطراف النهار تعكر مزاجه ولم يستطيع أن يتهيأ لتحصيل كما لو كان صغيرا خاليا من أشغال. Because every time someone gets older, more busy with different affairs in the daytime and nighttime, then his body and his changes or his ability, that he can't seek the knowledge like the one who is young, free of time and free from any busyness. ولذلك, he said, for those reasons, قال الحسن البصري رحمه الله طلب الحديث في الصغر كالنقش في الحجر. The one who seeks knowledge when young is like one who carves into stone. And this is the reality we all agree to, and we all know, but the problem many of us face that we say, well, by the time I started practicing, I was already past 18. So my boat sailed, that's some people think, right? The ship has sailed for me, خلاص, I don't know nothing. No, we say if you're older and you start learning, this is the time for you to push yourself, but just realize that your age is not a determinant or a preventative from learning. Just that the person who's younger, it might be easier for them, but the one who's older, he works harder, and he works smarter. And that's what the ulama, they give different fatwas, like the fatwa Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah, about a person who's older, when he's like in 20s, and he wants to seek knowledge now. What does he do? Quran first, Aqidah. Salaf al-Salih, they always say, you start with the Quran. That's because the child already learned the basic Aqidah. You're not saying yet. You don't know anything about your Lord. So some people say, I'm going to hifd the Quran. First you learn the Aqidah, then you do some Quran. And that's Shaykh al-Man's advice. If you know the Aqidah, the basics, then you can go to a full-time Quran. If you don't know, you go learn your deen first, basics. So why am I saying this? Because you're not a young boy, you're older. So sometimes you forget, you're older, okay, you got to live a little differently. Also, your pace of what you're learning. You got to pick up the pace, you're a little behind. See, brother, sometimes you forget, if you're behind, you're not sitting back relaxing. You're working. Some of us are behind, we're taking our time. What are you waiting for? To get to the point where your memory is no good? So why am I saying this? Because if you're still in your 20s, you're young. We have hope. That means the person's still young. And if anyone thinks they're old, too old, read the biography of Salaf Salih. Many of them, some of them started 60, some of them 70. Imam Muqbil rahimahullah in his 30s. Some of us, we didn't catch 30, we're already retiring. What's going on here? You know, this is from Shaitan, brothers. He started at 30, all right? Then he's going back to him in 40-something. That's when the tajdeed is happening. Some of us, we have to think about it. If you're older, no problem. But what we don't want to do is that if you're younger, if we were younger, you should start. That's the encouragement, and we're going to see that in a second. One of the Salaf, Abu Muhammad al-Marwazi, rahimahullah, he said, كما يقال, it was said, إنما تقبل الطينة الختم ما دامت رتبة. It was said, Muhammad al-Marwazi says, that verily the clay pot accepts an imprint when it's moist. If you're making pots, pottery, you make the design when it's wet, not when it's hard. Means the child is young, when you put the ilm, knowledge, it stays. That's a benefit, it stays. And this is mentioned by Qadir al-Baghdadi and Sihah al-Ahl al-Hadith, وإسناده صحيح. So that's a benefit of starting young. But if you didn't, no problem. But the reason we're saying that for our youth, this is what we should be telling them. And those of us who are guided when older, then we know we can also continue, we can start from where you are. Fa'idah, a benefit. And this is important because this is really what we should be doing as a community. And also encouraging the youth to seek knowledge. I mentioned a story here. He's mentioned the biography of Alamat al-Sa'di, rahimahullah. In his book, مواقف اجتماعية من حياة الشيخ عبد الرحمن ناصر السعدي. It's a biography, page 133. He says one day, Alamat al-Sa'di, rahimahullah, he went to the masjid and he was praying salah, and next to him was a young boy reading the Quran who was making a lot of mistakes. So Imam Sa'di, when he finished his salah, he told the boy, come here. And the boy came to him, he said to him, you want to read the Quran with me and you? And he said, sure, because man, Sa'di is asking. He said, okay, we're going to read together. We're going to start from Surah Naba. So Juz Amma. So he started, Sa'di read Juz Amma, and the child was reading with him. When he finished, Sa'di said, okay, your turn. He read Surah Nazi'at. Then they read next Surah Abasa. So they were reviewing together. And when they were reading, Imam Sa'di was making mistakes on purpose. So on purpose, so the child can correct him. And then Sa'di would then keep going. At the end, his father came and was amazed when he saw Shaykh Sa'di was reviewing the Quran with his child. And then he told his son, father, look, your son is so good at Quran, mashallah, all the mistakes I made, he corrected me. And the child became very encouraged, and he wanted to learn the Quran. See this? And he said because he knew he was young, he wanted to take advantage of that. So he corrected him this way, and he showed him also how to read, because he was reading with him to show him how to pronounce the Quran. So he said this is the way the ulama should take care of the youth when it comes to talab ilm. See this, brothers and sisters, this is how we should be. Eager. Sometimes this is the best way. And Sa'di's book, if you read this book, brothers, if you have time, read that book, مواقف اجتماعية من حياة الشيخ عبد الرحمن ناصر السعدي. You see a lot of benefit da'wah. Amazing. The Shaykh Sa'di's da'wah, amazing. A lot of his da'wah comes from those things, the gifts he gives people, the things that he does. He doesn't talk about, he doesn't really criticize, he shows. And this is also a benefit, that if a child like that starts young, beautifully, right? It's beautiful. But it doesn't mean that if you're older, you can't do it. So we also encourage those of us who are older, no shame in that, no shame. But now the Shaykh warns against something, about people who are, before they've attained a proper set of knowledge, that they go forward in trying to become teachers or du'at. And he says, ورضي الله عن عمر عندما قال تفقهوا قبل أن تسودوا. May Allah be pleased with Umar radiallahu anhu when he said, seek fiqh or understanding, or acquire understanding of the religion before you gain leadership. And this is mentioned by Imam Bukhari ta'aliqan, in the form of ta'aliqan majzuman, which means authentic in his opinion, in a suspended form, and it's authentic with other chains of transmission. Qadir Baghdadi, he brings a lot of them in Nasiha al-Ahl al-Hadith. And he says now, قال أبو عبد الله يعني إمام البخاري رحمه الله وبعد أن تسودوا وقد تعلموا أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في كبر سنهم And Bukhari writes in his Sahih after mentioning this, that the companions of the Prophet ﷺ learned knowledge when they were old age. Okay, so that's a beautiful reminder as well. So he says, فبادر أخي قبل أن تبتلى بالناس وقبل أن تبتلى بكثرة المشاغل وقبل أن تندم كما ندم كثيرون عليك باشتغال وقت الصغر في طلب ولا يعني هذا أن الإنسان يقنط ويئس إذ لم يتدارك وقت الصغر بطلب بل إن العمر كله زمان لتحصيل علمه لأنه عبادة والله تعالى يقول واعبد ربك حتى يأتيك اليقين. He says, and here we can see that you should hasten, oh my brother, in seeking knowledge before you are tested and people are tested. And you are tested with a lot of busyness and preoccupation that you will regret, and people have regretted, many of them, due to not using their time when they were young and seeking knowledge. However, at the same time, do not lose hope and despair, because whatever you couldn't catch when you were younger in age, you can catch when you're older. بل إن العمر كله زمان التحصيل. That's the benefit. All of life is the ability to learn. Allah says, worship your Lord until you reach certainty. And ibadah طلب علم. So if someone says, okay, I'm a little bit older, I started late, no problem, you can catch up. But what is the athar really telling us? تفقهوا قبل تسودوا. It's also another preventative that if you do go forward to become, let's say, da'iyah or a teacher before you learn properly, then you're going to end up in the seat, in the position. And it goes back to the idea of tasaddur, you go forward and you don't have enough knowledge, you're going to misguide people, misguide yourself. You're going to also be prevented from learning knowledge because the teacher, if he considers himself a teacher or a da'iyah, doesn't want to sit down in the classes for beginners. Right? That's the problem. So if someone became a da'iyah and he's not, now if someone says, oh, you need to learn this knowledge, he can't go to the class now because I'm the teacher. How can I be sitting in the class with the beginners? So out of that fear and arrogance, I'm not going to go, so he doesn't learn. So here we can also see another benefit. Some of the ulama translate this meaning tasawwadu to mean before you get married. That's another meaning. Seek knowledge before you get married because you're going to be the mufti of your household, right? So if you don't know nothing, no ahkam, no buyu' wala hayd wala shay, then it's going to be sitting around, and that's the problem we find. So there's two sides to learn before you get power, positions, or authority, and the second side, don't get power, position, authority without learning something. من استعجل الشيء قبل أوانه عوقب بحرمانه. As I said in the principle of fiqh maxim, whosoever hastens to something before his due time, he will be punished by preventing himself from reaching it. Continuing, the Shaykh rahimahullah, then he says, وحفظه تعالى, the next chapter, المعوق السادس, the sixth one, العزوف عن طلب العلم, being distracted or aversion to seeking knowledge. And what's meant by this, he says, ومن أسباب ذلك العزوف بزعم التفرغ لمتابعة أحداث العصر. This is a really beneficial one. He says some people, they're busy, from the business, he says, is that people turn and have aversion to طلب العلم due to them being preoccupied with modern affairs and contemporary matters. ولمعرفة الواقع, to know the reality, what they call fiqh al-waqi'. So see some people, it's BBC, Al Jazeera, day and night. I'm too busy. He's become a geopolitical analyst. And he doesn't know either topic. So this is what they're doing. And he says, now look, هذا الباب يختلف الناس في ولوجهم فيه بين إفراط وتفريط ووسط. People are in categories, extreme on one side and very negligent, and then people in the middle. والأولان على خطأ. The first two are wrong. Those who are too much engrossed in it, and those who have no idea what's going on. And والوسط is the best. And this is important because some people think Ahlul Sunnah Jama'ah, we don't know what's going on in the world. And this is the assumption that the people of bid'ah, they say our ulama are out to lunch, they don't know what's going on. And we're going to see what they mean by that. But this is one of the problems. So one of the excuses is that we need to be up to date, so let's spend our time learning about the modern affairs. He says, فإن طلب العلم إن طلب العلم يحثك على أن تعرف واقعك. طلب العلم tells you to know your reality and what you're around you. ولن تستطيع أن تعالج نازلة أو حادثة نزلت في واقعك إلا بأن تعرضها على ميزان الشرع. And you can't be able to deal with nazil, a newly invented or newly arised issue, in your waqi', in your reality, except by presenting it to the mizan al-shara'. So even the ulama, they say you have to know what's going on. Fiqh al-waqi', if it's intended by it, knowing what's new and what the issues are in order to do fatwa or to get the hukum, this is good. And from the conditions when it comes to doing fatwa, and also deal with the nawazil, is that you know the situation at hand. But who is this for? The ulama, those who are serious in knowledge, those who are beneficial, and those who are researchers, those who have knowledge. As for the layperson, he knows the waqi', but he doesn't know the hukm. So it doesn't benefit him that. So now he says, and even if you did know the waqi' and you don't know the hukm, no benefit. قال شاعر والشرع ميزان الأمور كلها وشاهد لفرعها وأصلها. Al-Jamali Qasimi, Kitab al-Salah Masajid, he says, the poet said, and والشرع, that the sharia is the mizan. It's the balance for all affairs and the witness for that which is far' wa asl. طيب, how do we deal with this? We have to know fiqh al-waqi'. When al-bid'ah use this term, what they mean fiqh al-waqi' is how many streets are there in Paris, and what's the IMF doing with the interest rate, and what's going. This is fiqh al-waqi', geography and politics. If you ask the Muslim hukum on that, he doesn't know. The sheikhs can talk about this is fiqh al-waqi'. Shaykh Muhammad just say that. How many streets in Cairo and Baghdad? You don't know fiqh al-waqi'. You're ignorant. And this guy, he just knows. It's just like today we tell him in today's time, knowing that wouldn't benefit you anyways. If we go back to قاعدة, حكم على الشيء فرع عن تصوره. فرع. حكم على الشيء, to rule upon something it's predicated on knowing the reality of it. It's not the hukum itself to know the reality. So they're busy with themselves with the فرع تصور الشيء, but instead of علم حكم, he can't even make the hukum anyways. So he's going to tell us all about the streets. Then what? I don't know. خلاص then. But Ahlul Ilm, he has the tools to give you the fatwa. He just needs to know the waqi'. Someone tells them or he researched it. The second problem we find, many people are busy themselves with this, they don't learn anything anyways. Because they go to the news and they're just taking fake reports. قال شاعر وآفة الأخبار. And what is the shortcoming when it comes to akhbari? إلا رؤاتها. Except for the people who report it. Means the person just taking lies anyways and saying I'm doing fiqh al-waqi'. You take it from Western media, legacy media's fake lies, you say I'm fiqh al-waqi'. You don't even know what's authentic itself, then you don't know the hukm on top of it. So he's a loser both ends. See, brothers and sisters, this is what's happening today. He doesn't even know what he's getting. Then he's going to tell you lies and say, look, we know what's going on. He doesn't know what's going on. But also the problem is, the ulama, are they out to lunch? No, they're not. They're not. And that's why even the person, talib ilm, doesn't do that. Talib ilm spends his time to talab and leave that to the people who are qualified. The ulama, they're already busy in that. You don't have to worry. You learn. And he mentions the point, أما من عزم عن طلب علم والحفظ. Whoever is busy and averted from knowledge by way of memorization, بتفرق لمتابعة الجرائد والمجلات وصب كل جهده ووقته في قراءتها ثم أخذ يعالج تلك القضايا من منظوره القاصر دون رجوع العلماء فهذا الذي قد خسر. He says, for those people who don't come to memorizing or seeking knowledge due to being preoccupied with magazines and newspapers, and they spend all their time reading them, and then they try to solve the problems of the ummah and the situation using these with this short, nearsighted, right, view of it, without going back to ulama, this person has failed. وَلَنْ يَعْرِفَ قَدْرَ خَسَارَتِهِ إِلَّا فِي مَا بَعْدِ. He will never know till after. As the poet said, أنت لم تزرع وأبصرت حاسدا ندمت على التفريط في زمن البذر. That he says that if you don't plant or harvest, plant and your seeds, and you're just looking for harvest, then you will be feeling remorse the day people are harvesting their seeds. And he says, إن مما يستنكر وينقد أن ترى شابا من شباب المسلمين وممن يغار على حرمات الله ويضرف والدمع على حرمات إن انتهكت إن من العيب في حقه أن يتهاون ببعض معاصي كالغيبة والنميمة وغيرها وأن تراه جاهلا بأيسر أحكام الشرعية فلا يصلي الصلاة النبوية التي قال عنها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم صلوا كما رأيتم يصلي. He says what's really to be detested and to criticize is a young youth from the youth of the Muslims who has a lot of protective jealousy for the hurumat, the prohibitions of Allah being violated, and he sheds tears due to them, and he becomes bothered by the bloodshed and the problems that are happening. But what's detestable at the same time in his regard, because he has distaste and he's upset for the sins and the backbiting and things like this, that he himself is ignorant of the affairs of the Sharia, the most basic of them, like praying. He doesn't pray the prophetic prayer. As the Prophet said, alayhi pray as you see me praying. وَلَا يَتَوَضَّأُ الْوُضُوءَ النَّبَوِيِّ. He doesn't make the wudu the way the Prophet told us. كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام من توضأ كما أمره وصلى كما أمر غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. Whoever makes wudu the way I commanded and prays the way I commanded, he gets forgiven his sins, probably previous minor sins. تراه جاهلا بأذكار الصباح والمساء. تراه مفرطا في أمور يحفظها صغار الطلبة قبل كبارهم. He says he's ignorant of the adhkar in the morning evening. He's ignorant of even the most basic knowledge, small students' knowledge, no, let alone the biggest, the more senior ones. فهذا من مداخل الشيطان. وقد كان الشيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمه الله من أعرف الناس بواقعه وكان من أدرى الناس ما يدور حوله من الدوائر. And there's an example. Shaykh Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah was the most knowledgeable people of his situation, of his time, and his era, and what's happening around him. So he's the Shaykh Islam for Sharia, and also of all the situation around him. Hence, when you see him talking about history and about people and society, he's giving the most amazing of descriptions, the most piercing of advice. So this is proof that the ulama, they combine between both, not these other groups, jama'at siyasiyya, these political groups, who they're studying this and they don't know that, nor the Sharia. Because what will they do? They collect all the dhunub and ma'asi, then they make hukum takfir. How did that work? You collect all the mistakes, you make takfir of the people. How? How does that work? They're going to say, well, look, someone does all this, must be a kafir. So what was the benefit then? You were going to make takfir anyways, right? This is the whole point. He was going to make takfir anyways, but he's going to gather all the news reports of the kufr, and it's not even kufr. See this? See all the mistakes, he always going to make takfir, but now he has hujjah, just a bunch of news articles. So may Allah give us protection from this, and he says it's dangerous, it's very dangerous. Not to mention, Shaykh Muqbil rahimahullah, he has a good speech on this, and he has one of his fatwa, Al-Ulama'u a'raf al-nasi bi-fiqh al-waqi'. The ulama, the most knowledgeable people, when it comes to the fiqh al-waqi', the fiqh of realities. And Shaykh Al-Albani wrote a nice book, if someone wants to read on it. It's an excellent read, and he brings those fatwa about fiqh al-waqi'. Someone wants to know more about this. And it's not to show you that the ulama also are aware of politics, they're aware of the geopolitical situation, they're aware of all of this. But the Shaykh's talking about talib al-ilm in the beginning stages or in his beginning of his ta'sil. No time for this. You should busy yourself with benefits, because no one's going to come to you for the big affairs anyways. It's not your business to be passing those fatwas or discussions. What you should be doing though is what's the ruling, and later from those rulings you can see how the ulama passed those verdicts, and later yourself can be strong enough to be able to do that or help people. But imagine the whole time you spend with that. And this is a good reminder in today's time. We can add social media as another one. Because if all the student knowledge cannot have a feed, it's just social media is full of news reports. It came. They said, it was said. Well, you should be busy yourself in your feed with ilm and lessons and audios and Quran and things that are going to benefit you, because tomorrow you're going to be needed as a person in the community to benefit the people. To finish, the Shaykh then mentions from this that you can find, for example, Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah, all this that he had, and then فبذلك أصبح يجد حل تلك الحوادث التي نزل في مجتمعته ويدرك الجواب عنها في كتاب السنة. So Ibn Taymiyyah, due to this, he was able to, because of his knowledge, when knowing about the situation, combined with those together, he was able to give the solution to the problems based on the Quran and Sunnah and the usul and the qawaid والشريعة. ومهما دار الزمان واختلف الناس وتباعدت أقطارهم فإنه ما أنزل الله من داء إلا وله دواء. And every time there's a situation, as time passes through the eras, and the situation as the people and the lands become further apart, we should know that Allah never sends down a disease except Allah sends down a cure. وَلَمْ تَنْزِلِ الْمُصِيبَةِ أَوْ نَازِلَ إِلَّا وَفِي كِتَابِ وَسُنَّةِ مَا يُصْلِحُهَا وَهَذَا أَمْرٌ لَا يَشُكُّ فِيهِ إِثْنَانِ. And at any time there's a newly arise affair, then know there is a solution for it in the Quran and Sunnah, and what is connected to it, right, to connect to the Quran and Sunnah to remedy that situation. وَهَذَا أَمْرٌ, it's an affair that no one can doubt it. And so inshallah we'll end with this much. And this is a reminder, brothers and sisters, the Shaykh continues with these advices, that he began with this for a reason, so that person would know that the things that are going to come to prevent them. And many people have already fallen into them, but the good news, once you know them, you can rectify the situation. Means if someone found themselves unable to attend the classes due to busyness, now they know that, okay, this is not good. Or someone found themselves when they're free time, they're spending too much time in the politics and news. Again, the Shaykh said, wasat. You know what's going on, you also know the ahkam. At the same time, we should then learn that of student knowledge, if he knows the obstacles, he'll be able to jump over those hurdles. And there's more on this, but we can read, for example, if someone wants, is the audio as well as the PDF. Shaykh Salih al-Shaykh, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, has a lecture, Asbab al-Thabati ala Talab al-Ilm. He has a lecture, and it's also a PDF, Asbab al-Thabat ala Talab al-Ilm. That means to firmness in seeking knowledge. And in there he mentions the ways to gain knowledge. Again, he's a Ma'ad al-Shaykh, right, senior scholar. And he also mentions in the end of it some nice benefits. So he has Asbab al-Thabat, the ways to get firmness. And at the end he also finishes the lecture with the Asbab al-Inqita', the reasons for people becoming cut off from knowledge. So inshallah ta'ala, what we're mentioning, you can also read that to get some more, because there's great benefit. And it's not very long, right? The audio as well as the thing, but it's good to read these when you have free time to, because being aware of the obstacles will allow you to become seeking knowledge and further, right? And longer, and inshallah ta'ala till the day you die. We also want to finish by mentioning the Shaykh is spending time on this. He didn't spend too much time on the Fadail Talab Ilm, because he said in the Muqaddimah, a lot of it has been already written. So also student knowledge should read those as well. When you find that your himma is going down, your ambition, you read the Fadail Talab Ilm. Read those ahadith, those ayat, Sahab, Salaf, read it, encourages you. Right? For example, coming to the classes, whatever you can, benefiting. And later he's going to talk about the other things, inshallah ta'ala. And if anyone has any quick questions, we'll take, otherwise we'll end this month, inshallah ta'ala. Khalas, okay, we'll stop with this because Maghrib just came in. Maybe inshallah next time we'll take the after.